So now you're looking at my screen.
Yeah.
Your mom indicated she was going to send me stuff.
Yeah.
Try to send that in advance of our session because
Okay,
we
sorry.
don't want to spend the first 10 minutes of a session waiting for that material to get to me.
Okay.
Half-hour session, we want to get on it right away. That's not a lot of time. So, first of all, is there anything you can verbalize? Because if you can verbalize it, I don't need to
Uh,
speak.
slope-intercept like form, like equations and stuff.
You can verbalize almost all of that. So tell me what the first problem says.
It's not a problem because I already did them. I just have to work on them.
Okay. What is it that you can verbalize that we can talk about?
Slope-intercept form.
Yeah, but I need a problem to be able to talk about that. I don't want to just talk in general about slope-intercept form. The best way
Well,
to teach you about it is to have a problem.
I have no problems. Like it's just I have to just study them.
Okay, this is slope-intercept form.
Yeah.
What's the m equal?
The m is the slope. I'm pretty sure
What's
that's the
b?
x.
That's correct. What is b equal to?
Y-axis.
Okay, good. So if I give you a formula, a specific formula like this, how can I graph that? Where do I start?
You start on the 4, right? Because it's so.
Correct. That's the y-intercept. I know that it crosses the y-axis at 4. Now, how do I apply the slope? What's the slope?
3x.
No, it's 3.
Oh, well, yeah, 3, and then
It's not
so
3x. The slope is just the coefficient of the x, which is 3. So
oh,
how do I figure out a second point? In other words, I know this is a straight line, and I know that one of it goes through that point that I've just circled. How do I get
okay.
another point? If I can get one other point, I'll just draw a straight line between those 2 points, and that's my equation.
So
What's the definition of slope?
rise over run.
Okay, so if the slope is 3, how do I get a second point? How far up do I have to go?
1.
3. It's rise over run. So I got to go up 3 and I got to go over 1. So I go up to 3, I go over 1. You see how I did that? That's
Yeah,
the second point. Now I just draw a straight line through those 2 points, and that's the graph of that equation.
wait, so you go up from 4, 3, and over 3?
No, I go up 3 and over 1. Slope is rise over run. Rise
Yeah, but
divided by
4,
run.
right?
So if my slope is 3, I got to go up 3 and over 1.
Oh, okay. But you do it from the 4, right?
Yeah, I could also go up 6 and over 2. Same thing. If I go up 6 and over 2, I'm going to end up right there. It still gives me the same straight line.
Okay.
Okay. So let me talk about more of these. Let me just give you some of these and you can tell me.
Oh, there's one I have to. There's another one that will be on the test. It's finding slope from 2 points.
Okay. Give me the 2 points, or I can make them up.
I just make them up. I have to have so like 3, 2, and then yeah,
There's 2
work
points.
on that.
Okay. Let me graph those 2 points. One of them is right there. The other is right there. So there's the straight line that represents, in other words, both of those points are on that straight line, right?
Yeah.
So what's the slope? What's the rise?
I don't know.
Rise is the difference between the y points. This is an x point, that's a y point. That's another x point, that's another y point. What's the difference between the y points? That's rise over run. What's the rise? What's the difference in the y coordinates?
Oh.
Subtract them.
I can't see it.
You can't see my screen?
I can see half of it, but the other half I can't see.
Okay, it sounds like your GoToMeeting panel is taking up too much of the desktop. You need to minimize it. You see the two arrows in the upper right that point towards one another? Right next to
yeah.
X?
2, the difference is 2.
Okay, that's the rise. What's the run?
3.
Oh,
No.
Yeah, it's the difference in the x's. The run is always the difference in the x's. The rise is always the difference in the y's. Well, the difference in the x's is 6 minus 3, right?
Yeah, but I also have to find the slope without a graph. I can't, like, it's not graphing it.
You don't need that graph. Eliminate that thing. The slope is the difference in the y's divided by the difference in the x's. That's all you need to know. Difference in the y's is 2. The difference in the x's is 3. Therefore, the slope is 2/3.
Okay, so like she makes us our class, she makes us do y over x and then put x1 and x2
All right.
and then y1 y2
I
and
know what you're talking about. Here, let me go through it. In other words, the slope also, you need to know the sign of it, whether it's plus or minus. Okay, so let me label these. Hold on a second.
yeah.
That was 3 comma 2. That is x sub 1. That is y sub 1. You with me?
Yeah.
This one is x sub 2, y sub 2. They're different points.
Yeah.
What's the rise?
Y.
It's y sub 2 minus y sub 1, is it not?
Yeah.
What's the run?
X sub 2 minus x sub 1. But when I used when it's negative y2 or x2.
Doesn't matter whether they're positive or negative. This is what's important.
Well, if it's already subtracting, when y1 be negative? So like,
In the 2 points that I picked, they're not negative. They're both positive. What is y sub 2 minus y sub 1? It's 4 minus 2, correct?
Yeah.
That's a positive 2. What's the run? What is x sub 2 minus x sub 1? 6 minus 3.
Yeah.
That reduces to a positive 2 over a positive 3. That is your slope between those 2 points. Now, let me change it a little bit. Let me put a negative sign in front of one.
What I'm asking is if it's in y2 minus negative y1? Is it? Are you confused
It's
when it's
never
like?
that, first of all. It's always y2 minus y1. If y1 is negative, then you put in a negative number. I'm going to give you some with a negative number, okay? There's 1 point. There's another point. If I want to know the slope between those 2 points, what's the general formula?
Y sub 2 minus y sub 1, x sub 2
Hold
minus.
on. So it's y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over what?
X sub 2 minus x sub 1.
Okay, now let's just fill in everything. What's y sub 2?
Y sub 2 is 4.
Okay, minus what is y sub 1?
Negative 2.
Ah, there's the thing right there. Now, what is x sub 2?
Negative, no, I mean 3, and then x sub 1 is negative 1.
You have to include all those negative signs. Do not drop negative signs ever. Now, simplify. What's the numerator? What is 4 minus a minus 2?
4 minus. Well, wouldn't it be 2? No, I mean.
This is why you
6?
have to know arithmetic, Jackson. You have to be able to add and subtract positive and negative numbers. Just no way to do math without knowing how to do that. So what is 4 minus a minus 2?
I can't see your screen right now. It got me at the.
Well, listen to my words. What is 4 minus a minus 2?
4 minus a minus 2 is 6.
Good. What is 3 minus a minus 1?
4.
Good. Simplify that. What's 6 over 4 equal to?
3.
3 over 2. Exactly.
2, yeah.
That is the slope between those 2 points. That's all you do, always. You always take y sub 2 minus y sub 1 and divide it by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. If you end up with a lot of negative signs, just deal with it. 2 negatives make a plus.
Yeah.
Let me give you another one. A little different. Here's 1 point. There's another point. Slope again is what? General?
Y sub 1. No, I mean x.
No.
No, y 2 minus y.
Is always the difference in the y's. So you always have the difference in the y's in your numerator. Okay, it's never the x's in the numerator. It's always the y's. The x's are always in your denominator. Now, tell me what y sub 2 is. In fact, finish the rest of that.
Okay. Let me just.
What's y sub 2? Just plug it in.
Wait, I gotta do this. Seven over negative 3.
Okay, what I want you to tell me is it's 4 minus a negative 3 all over minus 2 minus 1. Is that not what it is? In other words, you want to do math one step at a time, always. Don't ever just try to do it all at once. It's a path to failure. If you want to succeed at this, just plug in the numbers. Now, what's the numerator? What is 4 minus a minus 3?
7.
What is minus 2 minus 1?
-3.
Good. So your slope is what?
7 over -3.
Yeah, or that's the same as minus 7/3. In other words, if you have a negative in the denominator or the numerator, you can just take that negative and put it out in front. If you have negatives in both, it becomes a positive. If you have minus 7 over 3, that's a negative 7/3 also. So just know how to convert 7 over -3 is the same as minus 7/3. That is the slope for those 2 points. And it's that easy no matter what numbers I give you. Want me to give you another one? Or you got
sure.
it? I mean, we don't need to keep beating a dead horse here if you've got it. There's one point. There's another point. Tell me the slope. And give it to me specifically. In other words, tell me what y sub 2 is, what y sub 1 is. In other words, what's the numerator going to be?
5 minus -7.
And use parentheses whenever you have something like that.
Okay.
What's the denominator?
-1 minus 0.
Okay. Simplify the numerator.
12
Simplify the denominator.
over -1.
Simplify that. What's 12 divided by -1?
-12.
You got it. That's all there is to it. Whenever they give you 2 points, start with that point, subtract that point, divide it by that point minus that point.
Okay.
Okay? So,
Okay.
what else you got? I think you get that. I think you got this. In other words, I think you understand how to find slope.
Yeah.
And finding slope is usually the first thing you want to do on all of these kind of problems. Slope is extremely important from a mathematical point of view.
I got this method she has.
It's the same, trust me. It's rise over run. Rise is y sub 2 minus y sub 1. Run is x sub 2 minus x sub 1.
It's y equals m parentheses x minus h plus k.
Okay, you're talking about a quadratic, and that's squared, and that's a. It's not m.
They're not squared because the ones we did, they weren't squared and they weren't.
All right, well, the thing you just gave me doesn't make any sense in math. In other words, this is the standard format of a straight line. Y equal mx plus b. For example, y equal 2x minus 1. What's the slope?
Y. Oh.
What's the slope?
2x.
Wait, what's the slope?
2x.
Nope, slope is m.
Oh, 2.
Okay. What's the y-intercept?
-1.
Okay, so if I wanted to graph that straight line, I would start at -1 right there, and I would apply the slope of 2, which means I'm going to go up 2 and to the right 1 for my second point, and I'm just going to draw a straight line through those 2 points. That's the equation of that line. So this is probably one of the most important formulas you can memorize. Y equal mx plus b. You can take any linear equation, linear meaning straight line.
Yeah.
And that's a linear equation. And you immediately know how to graph it. You start at the y-intercept, you apply the slope to find a second point, and you connect the two dots.
Okay.
Okay? So anytime they give you an equation, a linear equation, you can graph it if you can get it into y equal mx plus b. Now let me make it a little bit harder. Notice this is not y equal mx plus b. This is 2y equals 4x plus 8. So if I want to turn this into something that I can graph easily, what's my first step? I got to make this look like y equal mx plus b. So I got to get rid of that 2 next to the y. How do I get rid of that 2?
-2.
Hold on. Stop. What is the 2 currently doing? Is it multiplying, being added, subtracted, dividing? What is it doing? What's the 2 doing to the y?
Oh, God.
Is it multiplying? Is it dividing? Is it adding or subtracting?
Multiplying?
Yeah. So how do I get rid of it?
Divide.
Exactly. You always do the opposite. So I'm going to divide that by 2. And if I divide the left side by 2, I got to divide the right side by 2, which means dividing both pieces by 2. Now, those 2's cancel, so I'm left with y. I'm getting closer to my general formula. What's this become?
That becomes y equals 4x.
No, what's 4x divided by 2 equal to?
Oh, 2.
2x.
Y equals 2x.
Plus,
4.
there's your equation of that line. So even though I gave it to you as 2y equal 4x plus 8, you can always solve for y. And once you solve for y, you end up in the y equal mx plus b format. Once you get a linear equation into y equal mx plus b, it's easy to graph because you know what b is and you know what the slope. So if I want to graph y equal 2x plus 4, I start at 4. I apply a slope by going up 2 over 1 to the right, because that's a positive slope of 2. And there's your graph of that. So anytime they give you an equation that is not in y equal mx plus b format, you can solve it for y to get it into that format. And frequently, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Because they don't always make it simple for you. They're not always going to give you y equals 2x plus 4. They might give it to you in a different format, such as I did. I gave it to you as 2y equals 4x plus 8. So you have to take that equation and solve it for y. Now sometimes it's a little harder. Let me make it a little harder. Now notice that that is not even close to y equal mx plus b, is it?
No.
So how do we solve that for y? That's the first step. Got to solve it for y. In other words, the last step of this thing is y is going to be equal to something. Well, In order to solve this equation for y, I got to get rid of everything that's not y. What's the first thing I got to get rid of? By getting rid of it, I mean moving it to the other side.
2x.
How do I get rid of the 2x?
Division.
Nope. What's the 2x doing relative to
Oh,
the y?
it's adding, so subtract.
So I got to subtract. You always do the opposite. So the next line is going to be 3y equals 10 minus 2x, right? So all I did is subtract 2x from both sides.
Okay.
Now, what else is still with y that I got to get rid of?
3.
What's the 3 doing?
Multiplying.
How do I get rid of it?
Division.
So I divide both sides by 3. And again, I got to divide each term by 3. So those 3's cancel out as they always do. And what I'm left with is 10 thirds minus 2 thirds x. Well, that's not quite in y equal mx plus b, but it's close, right?
Yeah.
What if I just switch those two terms and make it look like this? Y equal minus 2 thirds x plus 10 thirds. Now, that's perfect y equal mx plus b format. What's the slope?
Negative 2/3.
What's the y-intercept?
10/3.
You got it. That's all there is to it. It's always solving for y, and when you solve for y, you end up getting it into the y equal mx plus b format. You just have to read the coefficients. So, did your mom send something?
Yeah.
Let me see if I have it. I do. Let me open it. Whoops, hold on. Let's start with the first page. First thing she sent. Okay. Well, this is all filled in. This isn't going to help us a whole lot because it's already done.
Yeah.
However, notice that there is a mistake. What should this be? This 3 minus a minus 2. What should that be? No, fill it in with the numbers. Here. What's y sub 2?
Y sub 2 is
Those
3.
incidentally are not h and k. I don't know who labeled that. That is not h and k.
Our
This
teacher
is not
labeled.
correct. These notes are misleading. What you have at the top of this page where it says y equals m times x minus h plus k is not correct.
Okay.
It's y equal mx plus b. And nobody uses h and k here. If you're looking at h and k, you're looking at a quadratic, not a linear equation. A linear equation is a straight line. A quadratic is a parabola. They're completely different. Quadratic has to have an x squared term. What you're showing me here, somebody left off the square. That is not the general format for a straight line. But nonetheless, in other words, what I want to do here is cross that out. See how easily I can do this. Not that easy to do, but we'll give it a shot. All right. First of all, that's wrong. Ignore that. The general is this. Okay?
Okay.
Now, what is y sub 2?
Y sub 2 is 3.
Okay, very good. What is y sub 1?
2.
What is x sub 2?
-5.
Can't quite read that. Is that a -5 in there? Okay. What is x sub 1?
0.
Now, what is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1? Just fill in the numbers. Don't do anything else. What's y
X sub
sub
1.
2? I don't want you to give me the final answer, Jackson. I want you to just plug in the numbers. What is y sub 2?
3.
What is y sub 1?
2.
What is x sub 2?
-5.
What is x sub 1?
0.
Now simplify. Don't simplify before you fill in the numbers. It's a really simple process. You just fill in the numbers and then you simplify. What's 3 minus 2?
1 over -5?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Notice what you've got in your notes here says 3 minus a minus 2. That is not correct. It's not 3 minus a minus 2. It's 3 minus 2.
Okay.
So it's 1 over -5 is the slope of that. These notes are fouled up enough that it's making it much harder for you to understand it. First of all, that's wrong. That's wrong. So you're not even going to come close to getting to the right answer.
Yeah.
This is wrong. Somehow you have gotten the equation for a quadratic mixed up with the equation for a line. A line is a straight line. Quadratic looks like that. It's a parabola. Quadratics have an x squared in them. Straight lines have just an x. So the first thing I'd like you to do is differentiate between linear straight line equations and quadratics. They're going to teach you quadratics, and when you get to quadratics, it looks something a little bit more like what your notes say. The only difference is there's a squared term right there. And that's not M, it's A.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
But we need to know whether we're talking about quadratics or straight lines. If we're talking about straight lines, then forget that. That ain't even close. Straight line is y equal mx plus b.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right, let me look at the rest of this stuff. Yeah, this isn't going to do you any good because that's wrong. It's not your formula there. None of these are going to be right. So this page isn't really worth looking at. I mean, we can answer the questions, but you have to start out with the correct general formula. If you start out with the wrong general formula, you can't get it right. That's the wrong general formula right there. It's not y equal m times x minus h plus k. That nowhere in math is that true.
Yeah, that's what our teacher told us to write
No,
down.
you just copied it down wrong. She didn't tell it to you wrong. You just copied it down wrong.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Let me look at this page here. can't. What information is given? Greatest property for, is 4.5% starting value. I can't really read that.
Okay.
All right, let's start down here. Just a second. We can deal with this. Hold on. Right here. Look at that. All right. Here, let me write it. Y equal 4.5, minus y equal 4.5 minus 0.5x. Now, believe it or not, that is in y equal mx plus b format. It's just they've got the two terms reversed. Remember that you can always reverse stuff. By reversing it, I mean, let's put the x part first. And then let's put the y-intercept second. You see where those two are the same things?
Uh-huh.
What's the slope?
The slope is 3.
The slope is m. That's m. Right? The slope is whatever is in front of the x. Well, what's in front of the x? Minus 0.5.
Yeah.
What's the y-intercept? What's b?
4.5.
Yeah. So if I want to graph that, over here on the left, can you see that?
Yeah.
Start with b, always. Go up to 4.5. And apply the slope. Now, how do I apply the slope of minus 0.5? In other words, I need to come up with a second point. If I can get a second point, I know I'm looking at a straight line. So all I got to do is get a second point and draw a straight line through those 2 points, and that's the graph.
Yeah.
How do I get a slope of minus 1/2 or minus 0.5? Same thing. It's rise over run. So here's my slope. Let's convert it to a fraction instead of 0.5. Let's call it minus 1/2. You see that that's the same as minus 0.5?
Yeah.
What's the rise? When I write it as minus 1/2, what's the rise?
0.5.
No, it's 1. It's whatever the numerator is. The run is 2. Okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to go up 1 to there. And then I'm going to go over 2. But over can be left or right. Which way do I have to go? Remember, my slope is negative.
So under?
Got to go to the left. If I were to go to the right 2, I'm going to end up with a positive slope. So I got to go to the left 2, draw the line between the 2 dots, and that is a negative slope. You need to be able to recognize positive and negative slopes. Here, let me do something else. I want you to tell me positive and negative slopes. This is the best way to learn it. Just going to draw a bunch of slopes, and you tell me whether they're positive or negative. The slope on that line, positive or negative?
Positive.
Yeah. In other words, I'm looking up. Always start there. If you have to climb uphill, it's a positive slope. You with me?
Yeah.
What's that slope?
That's a negative.
Yeah, because you're looking downhill, right? In other words, if you get to go downhill, it's a negative slope. Make it a little tougher. What's that slope?
That's a horizontal, I believe.
Okay, so what is the slope of all horizontal lines?
0.
You got it. So anything that goes like that is positive. Anything that goes like that is negative. You're looking downhill. That's negative. You're looking uphill. That's positive. With me?
Yeah.
What's that slope?
That's negative.
You have to go.
Not a positive.
Put your skateboard right there. Do you have to go uphill or downhill?
Uphill, so that's a positive.
Correct. What's that slope?
That's a negative.
Yeah, you got to go downhill, right? So the secret is to recognize the difference between positive and negative slopes. So if I tell you that we have a slope of -3 that goes through the origin, how do I figure out how to put the second point on there? Remember, it's rise over run. So -3, let's call it -3/1. Same thing as -3. What do I do? How do I draw? How do I find a second point here?
Down 3/1.
Over is not specific enough. I need to know
Down 3.
left or right.
Down 3, left 1.
If I do that, what kind of slope is that? Positive or negative?
Positive. If you view it the other way, it's
Yeah, we have a negative slope, so that's not right. So
it has to be
I
right.
have to go down 3 and which way to the
Right.
Yeah, I got to go right 1. Now I have a negative slope. And that's always the way to do it. In other words, ignore the sign until you have to know which way it has to go. And as long as you know whether a line is positive or negative slope, you'll always know which way to go. I know that and I don't have to go down 3, I could go up 3. If I go up 3 first, now which way do I have to go? For the 1.
No, left.
Yeah, exactly. If I go left 1, then I got that slope, and that's negative. It matches what I know my slope is. So I really don't have to do much math. I just have to go up 3, down, up 3 over 1, and make sure that when I go my over, I end up with a slope that matches the sign of my slope. Most math teachers make the mistake of saying up 3 and over 1. That is a really bad error to make. And yet every math teacher does it. What you need to say is up 3 and left 1. if you're dealing with a negative slope. Or down 3 and right 1. Doesn't matter if you're dealing with a negative slope. As long as the line you end up looking at is a negative slope line, you're going to be fine. Just deal with the numbers 3 and 1. And make sure when you do the 1, you go in a direction that will give you the correct orientation of that line.
Okay.
Okay? Jackson, I think I've taken you over. I apologize. We started at 7, and it's now almost 10 minutes to 8, and you only had a half hour scheduled. We can quit now. We can do another 10 minutes, and it'll be an hour session, or I can do whatever you like.
We should probably quit now because I have some other studying to do with some other classes.
Okay, I'll just charge you for 3/4 of an hour. That's fine. Let me just make sure that my calendar reflects what we're looking at here. Let's see, I am seeing your sister Saturday morning at 9:30. Is Desiree there? Is your mom there?
Nah, just me.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure that whoever realizes that, excuse me, that was my dog. She has scheduled that from 9 to 11, which means that appointment is from 9:30 to 10:30.
Okay.
So I will be at your house at 9:30 for either a half-hour session or an hour session with what she called Adeline or Addie. What's her name? What does she like to be called?
I don't know.
What do you call her?
Addie.
Addie? Okay. So tell Addie that I will be at your house at 9:30 Saturday morning. Okay? And then let me just look. You've got some more scheduled here. No, you don't. No. Okay. I'll just wait until your next one is scheduled.
I do another one. I don't know yet because I have finals in 2 weeks.
She hasn't. Your mom has not scheduled anything else for you yet? She's welcome to go on there and do it at her leisure.
Okay.
Or I can do it right now. If you know when you want another session, I'll go ahead and write it in there.
I gotta talk to her first. No one's more convenient.
It's actually almost easier for you guys to communicate and then go ahead and sign up online. You don't really need to talk to me to schedule a session. If you go to my website, it'll show you my complete availability and let you schedule it on your own. The only complicated ones are when I'm meeting you in person, which I will do with Addie on Saturday morning. And then by Saturday morning, your mom and you probably will have figured out when you want your next session.
Yeah.
Okay? Good to go, Jackson?
Yeah, we're good to go.
Talk to you next time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.